Do you have thoughts on day trading? I am deep in a group of friends who do it regularly, and I'm wondering if this is anything a Christian man ought to spend his time doing.
Well, I would say this is how shall I put this? Not as a form of entertainment. Okay. So a simple question would be, how good are you at it? Right. If someone came to me and said, I want to be a logger, but I keep falling out of the tree, or I want to be a carpenter, but I always bend the nail, or I want to. I'd say, well, maybe you shouldn't be that. Maybe you should find something you can do. Day trading is the kind of thing where I would want to have all the members of that guy's family, his wife, other people, run an inventory. Are you just kidding yourself? Do you just want to sit on your computer all day and pretend to have worked? But if someone is, someone's good at it,
could you run that same thought experiment on somebody who's good at poker? If somebody says, I'll show you my daily winnings, I can make a living on this, and the whole family said, yeah, would you say it's still cool?
So I would say it's lawful. Okay. Just like it would be lawful for some kids can make a living playing video games. And the fact that you actually can do it doesn't mean that that's a wise long-term strategy.
So then go back to the day trading. So there's kind of a gambling element to it, but you're saying it's lawful, and so if you're good. But so much of that element of finance seems like it is fueled by so much of what we think is wonky about the way our government runs finances, quantitative easing. There's all these different elements that, at NSA we won't take student loans because there's all kinds of things that get you tangled up in. It's different with this, but is there anything in there that you would say, actually, I think you ought to stay away from that?
Well, the thing you should stay away from is if you look at the Dow Jones reports day after day, and the president had another collision with the president of China, and it looks like the talks are broken off, and the Dow goes down 500 points. Okay, well, nothing is more manifest in that the stock traders on Wall Street are herd animals and can be spooked. Okay. Now, if you are day trading, if you're day trading from your home, or if you're, on the floor in Wall Street, you want to be the kind of person who does his own research, who thinks for himself, and doesn't stampede over the cliff when somebody fires a shot over the herd of buffalo. You want it to be substantive work that you've done that has made you able to make money doing this, instead of being the amateur psychologist who could get swept up in the next excitement. I think you ought to be studying the companies you're buying, not studying the people you're buying them from.
What about, let's say, over the course of the day, you made a real killing, but a portion of the killing you made was in flipping stocks in a company that, let's say, turns out to have been a abortion pharmaceutical, or where you're trading money off of companies that you're morally opposed to.
I don't believe that we are responsible for what our dollar bill does in the broader economy. Okay, and I get that principle from Paul's teaching on eating meat offered to idols. In Corinthians, he says, well, don't eat meat offered to idols if it stumbles your brother. If he was just an idolater 3 weeks ago, and he sees you eating that meat, and he says, well, it must be okay, and he goes and does it, but he gets sucked back into the idolatry. It's like you having your liberty to drink in the presence of someone who's just saved from drunkenness 3 weeks ago. He imitates your drinking, but then he gets sucked back into his old way of life. So Paul says, don't do that for the sake of your brother, but Paul reiterates, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the meat's not demon possessed. If someone wanted to be scrupulous and said, yes, but you went and bought that roast for $10, and what is the temple of Aphrodite going to do with that $10? Something ungodly. Well, I don't care. So Paul says if we had to disassociate ourselves from sinners, then we'd have to leave the world. Paul says, I told you to not associate with people who call themselves brothers, who are living that way. Now, I have to hasten to add one other thing, and that is the justice of boycotts. Boycotts are a lawful tactic to use in a culture war setup, but they're not a moral mandate. So the illustration I use is, if I live in a small town, population 50, and there's a gas station there, and the owner of the gas station starts carrying porn behind the counter, and the next gas station is 5 miles over in the next small town, and I organize the people in our small town and say, we don't want this porn in our town, so let's start buying gas next door. And I organize a boycott, and Bob's gas station quits selling the porn. That was an effective boycott. Okay. Now let's say in the middle of it was a tactic, not a moral necessity. Because if I organized that boycott, and then I was over in Seattle for the weekend, and I needed gas, I don't have to drive around Seattle looking for a gas station that doesn't sell porn. If I buy gas from a gas station that sells porn, I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm not being compromised. It's a tactic only. Okay, and not always a wise one, not always smart to declare that kind of war, but it's lawful to do if you've got the resources to do it. It's not necessary to do in order to keep yourself clean.